Hello, this is Tad Radzinski, and I want to welcome all of you to our webinar today. We're going to be talking about designing your corporate responsibility program and basically establishing the framework to identify various opportunities and metrics within your plants and facilities that you're going to focus on to help you implement your sustainability initiatives within your business strategy. So I appreciate everybody coming in today. As usual for all of our webinars, I'm going to run through the PowerPoint slides and then I will be taking questions at the end. So if you do have any questions, you can go into the control panel on your GoToWebinar screen and basically type your questions in, and I will respond to them at the end. This is approximately a 30-minute webinar, so we'll be talking for about 20-25 minutes, and then we'll be taking the last 5 minutes with questions. So again, I appreciate everybody joining today. I'm looking forward to talking about this topic with you. For those of you that need some type of professional development hours, you will receive those for attending this, and you would just need to notify us if you do need credit for this. Also, just a reminder that all of our webinars and presentations are copyrighted and cannot be recreated or reproduced without our written permission. And like I said, today my focus is going to be on basically developing the various initiatives and activities that you would like to do within your facility or organization in order to implement sustainability as part of your overall business strategy. And what we're going to be talking a lot about is how to go about planning so you can do this and coordinating with different folks within the facilities and operations. We're going to be talking about establishing specific activities and initiatives that are going to help you achieve your goals. If you recall, the webinar we did last month was on materiality and establishing goals. So we'll be talking about that a little bit and revisiting that. But ultimately, once you have your goals, you should be completing your sustainability assessment of your organization and then developing the different initiatives and activities that you're going to be doing to achieve those goals. And another thing we're going to talk about today is some ideas and tips on some low-cost and simple first steps to begin implementing a corporate responsibility program. I know some of you on this webinar today probably have fairly advanced corporate responsibility programs or sustainability programs. Some of you may be just beginning, some of you may be in the middle, and regardless, I can tell you that every time that we work in different facilities or operations, there's always those low-cost and simple things that can be done, even if you're fairly advanced, and especially if you have multiple facilities or locations within your organization. I do want to remind everybody also that we are having our second seminar on Corporate Responsibility Revolution Strategy to Success. It's going to be on January 28th at the CIRA Center in Philadelphia. And this stems from the first one we did in May of this year that was very successful, and we have a number of companies that have attended that are actually implementing things they learned. They left there with an action plan and started diving right in when they got back to their respective places of business. And we've actually got documented cost savings from many of them already on things they've done that have not only saved money, but helped them really integrate sustainability into their business strategy and get a lot of people within the organization engaged in the program. So keep in mind that these webinars that we are doing are the build-up for this seminar that we're doing on January 28th. I do also want to point out that seating is limited here, and we have probably more than half the seats are filled already. So any of you that are on here that are budgeting or planning for 2015 budgets and whatnot, now is the time to get registered and get this into your budgets. And we look forward to seeing you in person at these events. So for those of you that follow along routinely on these webinars, this is basically our bulleted roadmap of how we go about integrating a sustainability program for any organization we work with, or even in our own office. This is basically the steps we've taken. And we've talked a lot in the past about, getting management commitment and forming a sustainability team, educating that team. Our past webinars have covered things on benchmarking of operations and then doing materiality assessments, evaluating triple bottom line performance. That's really basically going through and, doing sustainability assessment of your organization and understanding how to integrate these things and how to establish your goals. Now today we're going to be really focusing in on how to develop either operations or organizational efficiency improvements to help you meet the goals that you've established. And this is really a key aspect. Oftentimes companies will establish goals, but they don't really have a specific plan to meet those. And a lot of companies also might be a large organization where maybe it's a parent company that's basically establishing overarching goals for the whole organization. But the bottom line is every facility or every office or every location that's under that umbrella of the parent organization is going to need to establish their own specific activities and initiatives in order to meet those goals. And if you think about it, if you are a large company or a large organization that has, say, goals for energy, water, or waste reduction, or employee training, or giving to the giving back to the community connections, and things like that, those goals are really good, but we do need to bring it down now to the facility level and to the location level. And that's a lot of what we'll talk about today, because every group, every organization, every business unit will be feeding into those goals so the company as an overall can meet the objectives that it's established. So one thing that we found is typically whenever we do any kind of initiatives or activities associated with achieving sustainability goals, they usually result in cost savings. And we have found that if you start with low and no cost measures and get those implemented right away, that is very helpful as far as getting some, number one, quick wins that you can demonstrate to management, but also realizing cost savings then that can be used to what we call funding sustainability through sustainability. So once you start to get some of these cost savings, it helps you to implement further changes, different initiatives. If you do have to spend some capital to reach more goals and to actually get more cost savings and things like that. So that has been very successful in the past, and some of you on this call, on this webinar, actually might be the sustainability person for your particular organization. Maybe you have a budget, maybe you don't, maybe you have some authority, maybe you don't, but being able to get some quick wins and to demonstrate some savings is really awesome. And most often we'll get management to say, hey, the sustainability thing is a really good idea. If you are a company that sells products, making more sustainable products might result in more sales. Or if you can save energy or water or waste, or reduce packaging, or get additional customers on board, or get better recognition for your company, these are all really great things. And this will definitely help to continue the sustainability initiatives. And again, our main strategy with everything we do is not to make sustainability an add-on thing, but we want it to be really something that everybody just does naturally and becomes part of the company culture, and then becomes the way of doing business essentially. So if you recall, last webinar we did last month, we talked about materiality and understanding and establishing your goals. And this is another slide that gives you a visual on how some organizations might go about prioritizing where they're going to focus their time and effort. And ultimately what you want to be doing is definitely having a balance of goals that are meeting the exact needs of your organization, but then also meeting things that are important to your stakeholders. And if you remember from the webinars we've done in the past, those stakeholders could be employees, or maybe they're going to be customers or government agencies, or whoever you're affiliated with. It's going to be very important to understand what's important to your stakeholders. So what you do is kind of a balance. If you remember past webinars where we've shown the balance, basically the scales of integrating both your items that were very important to you as an organization, but then really looking at what was important to the stakeholders. In this particular example we have right here, this is from Ford Motor Company, and you can see here this is basically their way of how they break out prioritization of their different goals that they're going to be working on. And you can see here that, you know, some are low impact and high concern to stakeholders. Ideally, they want to be over here where they're high impact, high concern, high impact, medium concern, medium impact, high concern. This is the area that they want to be working in. And you can see here some of the things that they've established: low carbon strategy, reducing vehicle greenhouse gas emissions, and electrification strategy. And if you think about what they've got here, these things would all definitely contribute to each other, right? Because the low carbon strategy, if you're going to reduce vehicle greenhouse gas emissions, more electric vehicles would really help do that because you're not burning fossil fuels. And they definitely take a focus on, you know, looking at overall public policy issues, how they connect, how it affects governance and human rights, and then, you know, just overall sustainability, vision, and management are the different aspects that they consider here. There is a link in this, and just so to remind everybody, this is being recorded, and if you definitely want to go back and listen to this again, you will have that ability, and we'll have access to the slides if you want to do some more study on some of the things we're going to be talking about today. So again, what this means is, for the purpose of our discussion today, we have already run through, identified our key goals and focus areas for our corporate responsibility program, and now we're figuring out the best way to move forward and identify the initiatives and the different activities we're going to do within our organization to help us meet these goals. And this is just a refresher here on, you know, how to go about doing your materiality assessment. So the other assumption that I'm going to make here is that as part of this development of the corporate responsibility program, you would have already run through and done what we call the sustainability assessment. So you've already benchmarked the operations. You know how much energy, electricity, natural gas, fuels, how much water, how much air emissions maybe, how much waste is generated. If you're manufacturing something, you'd know about your raw materials and packaging. If you're an office, you're going to know things like what your employee vehicle miles are, you know, how many miles your employees are commuting to work, how much money and travel you're doing in regard to long distance travel, maybe airfare or train travel, different things like that. And training, that's another important thing you'd be benchmarking, as well as your connections to your employees and society as a whole. So once you've done all that, then the next thing you're doing is, all right, we've done our sustainability assessment. We know there's some opportunities, and we're going to focus on integrating these to help us meet our goals. So what I have here is a nice list of some very easy first steps, which we call our low and no cost measures. Again, we want to implement these right away to start realizing some cost savings so we keep funding other things within our sustainability initiatives. And I can tell you that under energy conservation, one of the best things you could ever do is turn something off. And, you know, I know it sounds silly, and I'm sure that all of us are yelling at our kids or our significant others about turning the lights off or turning off the television or the computer, you know, especially if we're the ones paying the electric bill. But you would be surprised how many opportunities there are on even folks that have quote-unquote advanced sustainability programs where we come into their facilities or their operations, and there's things that are just on with nobody using the equipment or nobody in the room. You know, the lighting might be on or whatever. So if you can figure out a way to, you know, basically take the human element of that and get that things turned off, that's really huge. And one thing we often do is if an organization has a building automation system or some type of computer system for controlling equipment, we want to observe and look at the scheduling to make sure that equipment's not running when it doesn't need to be. It's kind of like in your own home. If you've got your air conditioning unit and let's say you're gone at work for 10 hours a day and you're running the thing to keep the house, you know, as cool as you would like it when you're there, you're pretty much wasting money. So a lot of times, like in an office building, for example, they'll be running the HVAC equipment when no people are in the building, and there's no need to do that. So we try to turn things like that off. Or if you're a manufacturer that's on this webinar and you go into your facility and you see like conveyor belts running or equipment running and nothing's being processed, that's a big opportunity to make some savings. Another great one that's very easy is water efficiency, installing low flow fixtures and ensuring water is shut off when the equipment's not running. When I say low flow fixtures, every one of us could easily go and change the aerators on the faucets, whether it's in our own home or in our place of business. And every time we wash our hands, we're going to reduce the amount of water we use. Most fixtures are going to be at least 2.2 gallons per minute of water coming out of the fixture. And you can easily buy a 1 or a 0.5 gallon per minute aerator, unscrew the one that's on there, put that one on. And if you go to a 1 gallon a minute, people won't even notice the difference in flow. If you go to a 0.5, it's going to be like a shower spray, so people will be like, oh man, something's different here. But not only do you save water when you do things like that, you definitely save energy as well, because if it's not, using a faucet for hand washing, you're going to end up using less hot water, which means less energy used to heat that water. So it's like a double whammy. You can do the same thing on toilets and urinals and shower heads and everything else, and I can guarantee that you will save water, you will save money, and you will not invest a lot at all. And this thing about shutting off water when equipment is not running is really very true. If any of you have, say, for example, electroplating operations or, rinsing operations or, cooling water even, and those systems are running while the equipment's not in use, you're basically wasting money and losing a valuable resource. Another big thing is waste minimization and management, looking to reduce scrap, basically reduce or eliminate packaging where possible, and generally just think about source reduction, where you can eliminate waste in the first place and not generate it at all. Because ultimately we don't want to create a waste, but if we do, then we want to think about how we can reuse the materials or recycle them. And it still surprises me to this day, it's now 2014 and I go into many manufacturing or business office facilities and there's just a ton of materials that are going into landfill that could be recycled or reused. And there's always opportunities to reduce or eliminate their generation in the first place. Another thing that's really simple to do is developing a sustainable purchasing program. And what that means is you're going to really establish parameters or policies around the things you purchase. First thing we like to do is take a look at what you're purchasing and then analyze the spend of that. So for example, let's say you're an office and you're using a lot of office paper. You should be taking a hard look at, what type of paper you're buying. If it's all virgin paper, you can easily, for not a significant additional cost, buy office paper that's 100% recycled content. And that would be a great example of, basically establishing a sustainable purchasing program. I worked with a company not long ago, and when they did their spend analysis and they took a look at all the things they were purchasing, they realized that there was a lot of stuff being purchased that was never used. So what they started doing was eliminating some of the purchases, and then they worked very closely with their supplier. I think they were working with Office Depot, and they actually got Office Depot to not use disposable packaging anymore and to basically have returnable packaging. Like they would use these little crates to deliver because they were there a couple times a week delivering anyway. It was a very large organization. And they were able to eliminate a lot of waste, cut a lot of spending, and really reduce life cycle impacts across both the environmental aspects of the organization as well as the social, because less trucks coming in, both trash and delivery trucks, minimizing the amount of materials needed, things like that. Another big one is training employees on sustainable operations goals and policies and procedures. For different manufacturing folks, we've often done things where we teach all the employees with a very short education session, maybe about a 15-minute thing on energy conservation measures that they can be looking for, or water savings or waste reduction. And let's say you're a company that has 50 employees or 100 employees. Instead of you being the only person trying to achieve these goals, you do a quick little training session. You get them thinking. They're starting to observe opportunities. They're going to be, trying to do things different. And usually the people working in the organization are the ones that have really good ideas. and they're going to figure out ways to help you meet these goals much quicker. We did this for a large company not long ago, and they ended up getting about a 30% reduction in energy use. I think about 15% reduction in water and another 25% reduction in waste, just because we trained all 6,000 of their employees, and over the next year they realized savings just right off the bat from that education. The other thing to remember is a lot of those people will take that stuff home and start to do things at their own homes. Another good one is reducing travel. Travel is a big cost for a lot of organizations. I know our business requires us to travel quite often, and whenever we can avoid it, we try to do things like we're doing right now, an online meeting where we can have technology and talk about using the computer to get together and have a meeting instead of traveling and getting in a plane and incurring that cost and the carbon footprint that goes along with it. So here's an example of just some sustainability goals. Whenever I work with different organizations, I'm recommending that they always establish some type of goals around energy, because we all use energy, and we all also create carbon emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, which definitely contributes to the carbon footprint. So strong recommendation for everybody is to always have both energy and carbon goals. And then depending on what else you do in your organization, if you're a manufacturer, you want to reduce packaging, or if you're even someone that's purchasing products or materials, you want to try to figure out a way to reduce that packaging or get returnable packaging. Training employees, improving transportation fleet efficiency. Again, just a sampling here of different things you can consider for your goals, and these are things you want to keep in mind as you're going through these different initiatives and activities as you're working. And one thing, remember, every time we establish goals, we want them to be SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So you notice here we've got reduce energy consumption by X% at each facility by 2015. So we have it time-bound, we have it a specific goal. We have all the aspects of a SMART goal here that will help make it achievable and of good focus by everybody within the organization. So ultimately now, you basically have identified some initiatives that you're going to be implementing to achieve these goals. In most cases, you're probably going to have a number of a number of initiatives that you're going to be doing under each goal. Let's say you have 5 or 6 key goals in your organization. Under energy, you might have 5 or 6 different things you're going to be doing over the next few years. Water, same thing. You might, start off with the easy stuff first, but then, maybe you want to go to closed loop water use, or you're going to try to eliminate irrigation or change the landscaping so you don't have to irrigate, or, different things like that. Same thing with waste. It's going to take a while, and you're probably going to have multiple goals under that. The first thing you'd be doing is characterizing the materials you're disposing of and figuring out how you can basically divert that material from landfill. So the next steps you're going to want to do is ultimately you're going to want to get total employee engagement. You want to get executive buy-in, and you're going to be doing that executive buy-in or getting that recognition by having success. And if you're implementing some of these simple things, then that's going to help breed that and basically be able to go to management and say, look, we've already achieved these great things. And then ultimately getting this just as part of your business strategy. So the next webinar we're going to be doing is going to talk about how to go about getting total employee engagement, how to get your executive buy-in, steps to integrate it into your business strategy, and then just different tips on how you can really take this from an idea to implementation. And that's really what the next steps are all about. And the more people you get engaged and involved, the more successful you'll be in establishing and creating this program overall that will be providing all the value that you really want. And number one, you want to be looking for the cost savings. You want to be looking for improvements in your triple bottom line as far as economic, social, and environmental performance. You want management to recognize you. You want your customers to recognize you. So all these things are going to be really important as you move forward. So just a quick summary. Like I said, we were going to be talking about how to go about identifying these initiatives and activities, understanding how to integrate these into your sustainability goals and getting people to focus on them. And then we did cover the simple and low and no cost things that you can be doing to help save energy, water, waste, packaging, meet your social objectives, all the different things that we did discuss. So we're already down to 2:25. We have a couple minutes here for questions, and I do have about 5 or 6 questions that have come in. So I'm going to address these now. And the first question says, how often are employee incentives such as cash or other material awards used to promote engagement in a corporation's sustainability goals? How effective do you think they are? Well, I often see that many companies we've worked with and many companies that we've helped establish their corporate responsibility programs sometimes have like employee suggestions, or they have people that are on the employee sustainability team, or just people in the general population that might offer ideas. And those awards have worked. You know, they definitely get people excited. They definitely get people interested. If they know there's something they can win or some kind of benefit they can get from doing that, then they're more apt to want to get involved. In fact, whenever we do our work on buildings, if we're doing, say, a employee comfort survey or an employee transportation survey, we usually offer an award of winning either a gift card or a iPad or whatever to get people to participate in the survey, and that definitely boosts our numbers as far as getting more people engaged. So, you know, ultimately, maybe you want to start out with something like that, where, you know, somebody that comes up with, you know, the top 3 ideas around energy savings or water savings or whatever, depending on your organization, you know, maybe you want to buy them, give them a gift certificate for dinner for them and a spouse or something like that, or maybe you'll make a donation to one of their, you know, local charities or something like that. There's different things you can do, and they definitely help. And oftentimes we find that if you really want sustainability to work in an organization, if you make sustainability goals part of an employee's performance goals or objectives, that will definitely drive change, especially if it's within top management. There's a company we've been working with for years, and for years it was a bottom-up approach where we were working with the marketing teams and the sales teams and plant people and whatnot, and then finally the board of directors made sustainability part of the CEO's goals. He was engaged, but not totally, and now it's amazing how much he really cares about achieving these objectives now that his future performance and his bonus and his salary could be tied into how well the sustainability objectives are. So if you are progressive enough to be able to get sustainability goals into people's performance goals, that is really good. Okay, we got another one here, and just give me a second. It's how do people get to look beyond the upfront costs of to the life cycle cost? Well, that's a really good one, because, you know, a lot of times you're trying to say, okay, we're going to do something within our facility, and we're going to have to spend some money to save some energy or reduce water, reduce waste or packaging or whatever. And what you really have to think about is, what is that long-term thing and effect going to be? For example, you can't just think about first costs. You got to be thinking about, all right, if we do this now, it's going to save us X amount of water, which is going to reduce, you know, maybe our sewer fees. It's going to reduce the fees in the future with the local utility. I know in a lot of organizations we work with, for example, local water utilities keep raising rates because they got to start paying for replacement of infrastructure and upgrading of plants and whatnot. So even though there's a cost right now, you have to think about, all right, we heard there's going to be a big increase in costs in the future, or something like that. So using life cycle thinking is going to be really important when you're evaluating the different initiatives you're going to be doing. Okay, the next one is, do you find any difference in acceptance of sustainability goals in employee-owned organizations where everybody gets the benefit from cost reduction? Well, that's a really good question. I mean, you know, I know we're a small company, and, you know, everybody here is pulling in the same direction, wanting to achieve our goals. But, you know, as you get into larger organizations where maybe it's just a job for somebody and they don't really care so much, you know, they're just there for the salary and, you know, maybe some happiness at work. When you get into situations where you have employee ownership involved, usually we have seen that there's a lot more interest in doing sustainability, a lot more interest in cost savings and that kind of thing, because everybody's going to benefit. So that looks like all the questions I can address right now. We're right up against 2:30. I really want to thank people for joining today. And just a reminder, we do have the seminar coming up in January. I spoke about it early on, and I see there a few people joined since I covered this slide. But we are having it on January 28th. And again, this is the build up to that. I encourage you to take a look at the website because there's actually a lot of testimonials from people that attended. And like I said, we have most of the organizations that have attended have already achieved some cost savings from doing things that they learned in the course and using the action plan that they left with. Just a reminder also that we have our next webinar coming up, Strengthening Internal Support for Sustainability Initiatives. This is all about implementation, employee engagement. And then for those of you that might be interested in the seminar, we are going to have a brief information session on November 4th to give you more information in case you need to tell management about it. Or if you're trying to get someone to commit and allow you to come or give you the funding, this is a great opportunity to get on, learn more about exactly what we've done and how the whole seminar works. And we'll also give you some of the testimonials that people have been talking about, as well as helping you to sell this to get approval to attend. So again, thank you all. I really appreciate it. Look forward. If you have any comments or questions, always feel free to email me. And your comments and questions really help us to tailor the seminars and webinars that we do. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you on our next webinar next month. Thank you.